Welcome back, everybody, to an oasis of common sense in a sea of absurdity. Yeah, I think that pretty much sums up what we're trying to do here. It's Rick Wagner, right here, getting it right on KNZZ, KGLN, and a bunch of other places. We're at 1100 and 980 on the AM dial, and then 92.7, 101.8, I think 98.1, a couple others, and translators, what's not, all over Eastern Colorado, Western Colorado, Eastern Utah, and then, of course, on the Internet, and we don't want to forget our friends at Ships at Sea. So we're everywhere. You can listen to us on podcast as well by going to our politicalviking.com, which is our webpage that has all of our news and tons of connections to other news sites that show you what's their lead stories, and you can look at those and decide which ones you want to click on. Just one-stop shopping. And there's no shopping. I don't sell anything on there. Although I am thinking about selling some T-shirts. I made some T-shirts a while back. People asked me recently, whatever happened to those? This was like 6 or 7 years ago. I made some T-shirts up that vast right-wing conspiracy T-shirts with the wording them people, special agents of the vast right-wing conspiracy. Gave them a T-shirt, and people like those. Says, you should make those up again and sell them. So I might. If I do, whatever I make off them, assuming that I'm enough of a business person to make anything off of them, will go 100% back into the show, not into my pocket for some dilly-dallying I might be doing on the Internet or something, buying something that I don't need anyway. Anyway, so we're back. What an interesting week. Oddly enough, tremendous things happening and yet not much changing. It's a very a very stagnation or stagflation, which is probably where we're heading, kind of time, isn't it? Things seem to be stuck in just the spin cycle in world affairs. We see terrible images out of Ukraine. War is always terrible. Modern warfare is just as terrible, sometimes just on a larger scale, although there's been a lot of ancient warfare that was on a pretty big scale. It was pretty terrible as well. The difference, of course, is that we get to see it brought into our living rooms. First started seeing that in the 60s with Vietnam War, and it's gotten progressively more of an immersive experience. It'll be interesting to see how that affects people as time goes by, both with their involvement in, wanting to get involved in wars, people that want to be in the military when they see kind of what happens, and I don't know what kind of effect it's going to have. I think people want to defend their country, will always want to do that, and those people will see a lot of those images as what happens when you don't win wars. Because remember, you can have consequences if you can't fight, if you're too weak to fight, too lacking in the moral fiber to fight, or you don't care about your country. Really bad things can happen, and maybe we'll be able to see that, and that will, on one hand, motivate people. Obviously, it's pretty horrific. Some people are going to be waved away by that. It's understandable. We'll see how that plays out. I'm going to be watching that as sort of a long-term societal event. In the short term, of course, we get to see what fools and poltroons we are ruled over. We used to participate in our government, but that's being kind of shut down. Soon we'll just be ruled, I think, if we don't do something about it. We have a chance to do something about it here in November, and if you stay home and don't do anything and don't vote for the right candidates, then you'll have to learn to like what you're going to get, and I think it's going to be hard to like it. But they'll tell you to like it, so I guess you can see how that works out. Just plain idiocy out there. I mean, I've used the term idiot this year more than I probably have my entire life because it's so appropriate. There's just one idiotic idea that's put forth by an idiot. Now, that may not be fair. They may, in fact, be morons. A moron is slightly more intelligent than an idiot. And a simpleton. They might be simpletons as well. So I may be overly broad in my definitions. But unbelievable things that explain a world in turmoil, and war, an economy, in a dive bomb towards a recession, and people not being able to afford things more every day. In other words, the affordability of everyday items is decreasing at an increasing rate, as we like to say in the economics world, and that is headed towards a bad result if it's not stopped. Inflation, as we say here over and over again, is not something that's just an annoyance. It can destroy governments. It can bring down nation states. It has. If it gets out of control enough, it's so difficult to stop because of the cyclic nature of it. People start demanding more wages because things are more expensive, and that fuels the inflationary spiral. Sooner or later, it seems like someone says, well, the government needs to step in temporarily with price controls. Well, price controls are only half of it. You have to control wages, too, if theoretically you're going to be able to freeze this inflation cycle. So wage and price controls. They did that under Nixon. They've done it a couple other times in history. The first time we know of it was the Emperor Diocletian. Roman Emperor Diocletian imposed what's effectively wage and price controls. And it didn't work then either, and it's never worked. It sounds like a good idea at the time. Well, we'll control these things. We'll get stuff, get our arms wrapped around it. We'll control how fast prices go up and how fast wages can go up. And then, things calm down, then we'll take that off. Well, they don't calm down. All you're doing is building pressure up. It's a little bit like taking a can of pop and just shaking it and shaking it and shaking it, because you're dampening down artificially things that are happening. You're not allowing them to find their natural set points. And so when you eventually have to remove those, prices, wages just shoot up and go all over the place. It makes for a very difficult time to even pretend you're having a recovery. And this is what we'd be looking for if politicians think this way. And politicians who love government tend to think this way because they believe government's the answer to everything. So we'll need to watch that out for that, because at some point, the direction we're headed in this administration is, wait, this isn't our fault. They may as well just come out and have a press release, or just say it too. I mean, Jen Psaki's quite capable of saying anything absurd, and I think apparently enjoys it, and say, all we can know for sure about this economy is that we had nothing to do with it. Well, they just say that, because that's where they're headed. We don't know anything about but we know we didn't cause it. And here's a long list of possible things, all aimed at people who might be conservative or business owners or something. They're all terrible. And then you get into the most absurd attack on your intelligence I've seen in a long time this last week, which was the chart on oil prices. And some of you may have seen clips of this. The White House trots out this chart that shows the price of crude oil and the price of gasoline, and then shows that we've had some dips, which, by the way, is not lasting. It's starting to go back up again. A dip in the price of crude oil, and yet gasoline prices stayed the same during that period. Aha! She shouts. This is profiteering. Evil oil companies. They're robber barons. Like I said, you recognize them right away. They wear top hats, usually a monocle. They carry a silver-tipped cane, and they often drive around in a 1935 Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow. That's with the kind of image they're trying to build to these people. It's ridiculous. We may have periods where people are trying to make extra money. I mean, that is true. This isn't one of them. What they're trying to show you, of course, is an absurdity, and that is that oil is not gasoline. I don't know, and one of the videos I did this week, I have the term "lidiot," which is to say you're either lying or you're an idiot if you think that, and you may be both. You may be lying and you believe some of it, so then you're a lidiot, and sort of splits the difference there. Oil, as most of you know, is not gasoline in the sense it has to be refined. There are distillates that come out of crude oil that are then manufactured into gasoline. Gasoline is not a thing. It is a mixture of things. And it takes time to do it. Plus, when was the last time we built a refinery in this country? Yeah, look that up. Decades. I mean, for any sizable refinery. So to try and draw a correlation between those two, it's absurd and insulting. We'll be back.